The podcast you are about to listen to contains at least one of the following: strong language, disturbing topics, abusive opinions, generally things that aren't appropriate for little kids or overly sensitive people. So, if any of that stuff's going to get your nose out of joint, this is your chance to turn it off. Welcome to I Had to Say It, the podcast where I not only say the things I need to say, but the things I think you need to hear. And your feelings, they're not a factor. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of I Had to Say It. So we're going to start out as we do by saying Josh, Jake, B. Word, Iceman, Jason, Miss Aaron, Mike, Tabby, Javier, Fitz, McShane, El Jefe, El Devlin, and El Morte. Thank you guys for the continued support. It means a lot to me, it really does. So we're going to start off with a little light housekeeping here. The first thing I want to say is haven't had any attempts at the scavenger hunt submitted yet, so yeah, that's still going on. I am going to throw some pictures of the potential prizes up on the website on the scavenger page if you haven't looked at it, or you have looked at it and you haven't seen it recently, just so you can see what you're working for here. This stuff is really cool. Ken does great work. I'm not going to keep gushing over the guy because I don't want to get annoying with my fanboying, but it's really cool stuff. I think you guys will appreciate it. So, get on it, win the shit. I'm going to actually put kind of a deadline here. I want to say by the end of the month, if I haven't heard anything, I'm going to come up with a different way to distribute this stuff, because particularly I don't want these calendars sitting here until they're no longer calendars and just wall art. Now, that's not to say they're not still useful, even if you get them 2 months in, because the pictures are definitely like frame quality. They are really good looking pieces of art, and you could even take them off the calendar and frame them if the months were passed. So, but anyway, if you still want to use it as a calendar, get back to me. Work with me, people. Work with me here. This is supposed to be fun. I'm having an ulcer because I'm stressing out because I don't think anybody's, cares. The second thing I want to do is I want to say a real quick, just kind of a broad general thank you to everyone who asked me if I was feeling better over the last few days. I have been having, some health issues. Nothing major, not like hospital visit type shit. Just general feeling crappiness. And it was just kind of touching that people wanted to call and ask how I was doing. So thank you to anybody who reached out to me via the various social media platforms or when I spoke to them or whatever. Thank you guys for just asking if I was feeling any better, because I do know I tend to like throw in the whole I feel like shit when I don't feel good and I'm recording, because I want to explain why sometimes I get a little nasally or stuffy or rambly or stupidy. I mean, the rambly is pretty much a given. If you're listening to the show and you're surprised when I go off on a tangent or ramble for a few minutes, you haven't been paying fucking attention. But yeah, anyway, so in the spirit of trying to keep things housekeeping out of the way up front, first and foremost, this past weekend, prior to this episode dropping, I did a guest spot for Friends of the Show Whiskey Hell's 150th episode. They did a kind of a panel thing, which is, that's not usual for them. They don't usually do guests and stuff. They get on and talk the news and put out the data and put it there for you to listen to and analyze and think about, think critically, act accordingly. But they decided to do for their 150th episode, which is, it's getting up there in the indie podcast community. That's a lot of shows don't make it past, 100. A lot of shows don't make it past 20, if we're being completely honest. Pod fade is a real thing. A lot of people get into it with the wrong ideas, the wrong expectations. So, yeah, a lot of shows peter out real fucking quick. So getting to 150 episodes is an accomplishment. You're doing it every week. You're doing the thing. And these guys do their research. They read a lot of material. And in the spirit of being a panel episode, which was to celebrate 150, they brought all the Whiskey Hell insiders, the Patreon members, that are usually in the chat that has been added to the live recordings they do on the weekends. Well, for episode 150, they decided to, let the inmates kind of run the asylum and have all of us unmuted for the conversation. And so we all kind of got to look behind the curtain a little more than we normally would, because we got to share all their articles and everything leading up to the episode during the week. So we got to see all the work these guys are actually putting into these episodes. And we are usually doing our damnedest to derail from the comments section as they're recording. But it was a blast, and I highly recommend. If you're not listening to Whiskey Hill already, I've recommended them more often than not. And you're fucking up. You need to get your shit together. So go listen to Whiskey Hell, download, subscribe, like, share, leave a review, comment, ratings, all that good shit. You know, all the stuff all the podcasters say about their shows. So I'm saying do this for Whiskey Hell. Go listen to the episode. It was a blast. We had a great time. We laughed. We made jokes. We talked about issues that are impacting the world and had some really fine conversation. It was a great time with some great people. I'm looking forward to the next time we decide to do something to that degree of shenanigans. And the next little light piece of housekeeping, I want to do a quick happy birthday shout out to a dear friend of the show, Mike Gray of the Gray's Taproom podcast. This is coming out after your birthday, but I still want to say happy birthday, buddy. Another great show that I have recommended and you should be listening to is Gray's Taproom. Mike and Tabby are fantastic people. They're hilarious. The shows will entertain you, to say the least. And they put in a lot of work. They've got a radio station. They do their podcast. They have jobs because they're real people like the rest of us. They have the amazing El Presidente Gunner, the most awesomest kid that's too young to have a driver's license that I know. And so go check them out too. So I think that's all the housekeeping I have for this week. Sounds about right. But anyway, so that being said, we are now going to get into what has been stuck in my craw for the last few days. And the current situation here in the United States. And again, I've been looking for something non-political to talk about because sometimes I feel like people listen to hear what I have to say at this point. I mean, they come in with this I don't think I'm getting a ton of new listeners. I think I get a lot of regulars at this point who have a certain degree of expectation. They know what they're getting into if they're going to listen to me. But I feel like just constantly bitching about politicians and the corrupt assholes that are running the world at this point it gets old, it gets tedious, and sometimes for me I need a break from thinking about it. Unfortunately, the way this past week has gone, it's really been next to impossible to try and take a break from the stuff. It's fucking everywhere. The shit show just keeps spiraling and getting fucking worse. And, in a prime example of, I don't, as a general rule, I don't talk sportball, as it were. I'm not a huge professional sports enthusiast anymore. As I've gotten older, I have gotten away from giving a fuck. Primarily because, I grew up in, compared to like today's athletes, I think I probably grew up in like the peak of when sports meant something to me at least, where it was about the game. It wasn't about all these fucking athletes trying to make a statement and trying to push their beliefs and platform their policies and their ideals. It was, you went out and you tried to be the best you could be at the sport you were fucking playing, and that's what you did. You tried to win, and you tried to be the greatest. You tried to do the best you could. You tried to take your team to the fucking golden land or the promised land or however you want to phrase it. And somewhere along the lines, we lost that. And somewhere along the lines, I lost my fucking patience for these clowns. So I really, in the last maybe decade, really haven't given a fuck about any of it, ultimately. But to a certain extent, I do still enjoy sports. I enjoy watching athletics, but I'm not nearly as vested in it as I used to be. I will still, and personally, I really prefer to go see the games live if it's an option. Like, I will never not go to a Blackhawks game if the chance comes up because I love watching hockey. It's a great sport. And usually if I'm going to the game, it's because I got tickets from one source or another where I didn't pay for them, so I'm perfectly happy to go. Because I'm still going to be spending, $40 on a hat or something and, $15 per fucking beer. But it's a good time, and I enjoy the sport, and I enjoy the game, and I like to watch it happen, and I like to watch it being played. And that just seems like up until maybe the last year or so, the NHL didn't really feel like it was too vested in identity politics or societal politics or any real social issues. They were just content to go out there and play fucking hockey. And I appreciated that a lot more than every MLB and NFL and NBA motherfucker that was given an opportunity to just stand up and make their ideals known to the world and bring attention to X, Y. I don't fucking care. You're an athlete. I don't give a shit what you think, what you feel, or what you believe. I give a shit on how well you play the sport you're getting paid to play. Nobody's paying you for your fucking opinions, and I don't fucking care at all. Play with your ball. Shut the fuck up. Don't go to the press conference after the game and tell me what you think about anything from politics to vaccines to fucking the genocide in Rwanda or whatever the fuck else you feel the need to talk about. I don't care. And I'm annoyed that teams and leagues and owners feel the need to start trying to incorporate this shit into the games. And, oh, we're going to have special uniforms to commemorate this, and we're going to have we're socially conscious people. Fuck you. Play the ball. Shut the fuck up. That's all we want. Most actual sports fans don't give a shit about your politics. They don't give a shit about you pandering to groups who historically and statistically don't give a shit about your sports. And I wish more motherfuckers would take the stance I'm doing, just so maybe we could put a little bit of a hurt on them where they'd realize they're losing business because of all this dumb shit and just go back to playing the fucking game. I really don't think that's too much to fucking ask, but apparently I'm in the minority on this one because every major sport has done it. And this year, literally every major league sporting industry lost my respect completely, because if you're based in America and you don't share my values, I don't have to patronize your thing. Because recently a letter was issued publicly issued on social media and theoretically submitted to the Congress and the White House with the endorsement of every major league athletics organization calling for stronger gun control and yada, yada, yada. And so immediately, fuck you. No, I'm not their target demographic that they're pandering to, because I wasn't watching games anyway. I wasn't buying jerseys and buying tickets. But again, fuck you. No, you're pretty much just nailing the coffin that I don't feel bad that I wasn't watching any of this shit. And that kind of pissed me off. And, I don't believe I do believe everyone should be proficient in the handling and firearm safety and using guns. And I believe if you want the option to have one and you're not a violent felon, you should have that right. You should be able to defend yourself, because the Supreme Court has basically ruled that police officers are under no obligation to jeopardize their own life to protect yours. So legally, nobody has to come save you. From a realistic standpoint, I believe most of the people that put the uniform on are trying to do it for the right reasons. They're going to try and do things the right way. Now, on the other hand, like the Uvalde shooting that everybody wants to go, that just puts holes in the good guys with the gun theory. No, it didn't, because those cops stood around with their thumbs up their asses for almost an hour. Nobody wanted to take control. Nobody wanted to take responsibility. Nobody wanted to take authority and go in and fucking end the problem. So we had a bunch of people standing around with their thumbs in their ass letting kids get killed. By definition, none of those people qualify as good guys with gun. They qualify as inept cops. There's a huge fucking difference. But again, disregarding all of the rhetoric and all the talking about like, they're under no obligation to protect you. Realistically, when you're in like dangerous situations, life or death situations, the police are not an active participant in that interaction. They are a reactive force, not a proactive force, as in they can't be involved until you call them after the fact. If somebody's breaking into your house, the cops aren't going to get there before the person breaking in your house is in the door, and you should have the right and capability to defend yourself in that situation. I do not believe anyone should be able to take those rights away from a human being. Now, if you choose not to partake in those rights, if you choose not to participate in the process, if you choose not to take it upon yourself to defend yourself, that's your right also. But that also leaves you subject to the consequences of that choice, i.e., somebody's going to break in your house and do whatever the fuck they want to you, because bad people don't care what your intent is. Bad people don't give a shit what the law is, because All these assholes are like, oh, we need more laws. We need more stricter gun control. We need to make it harder for law-abiding citizens to get a gun. And we need to make it where you can't carry a gun anywhere except for having it in your house under lock and key. We want it to be as useless as fucking possible because we're scared and we are weak. Because ultimately that's what it comes down to. It's people that are too weak to defend themselves, whether it be physically weak or simply moral fiber, emotional stability, strength of character, too weak to defend themselves or the ones they love or the property they've worked so hard for. And they're cowards because either they're afraid of the consequences of their actions or they're afraid that they just don't have the chutzpah to take care of things. So they would rather rest under some false sense of security that, oh, well, if we make these things illegal, then we don't have to worry about it happening. Well, here's a newsflash for everybody who's ever tried to use that as a justification for this shit. Murder's illegal. Theft is illegal. Well, at least it used to be illegal. It's not illegal anymore. Basically, every permissive left-leaning shithead judge in this country has made it where the criminals have no fear of the law anymore at this point. You want to know why police are having a hard time enforcing the law and deterring criminals from doing criminal shit and crime is on the rise? It's not because all of a sudden there was just a magic glut of guns somewhere. It's because these dirtbag pieces of shit have no fear of the law because there are no consequences for them. Recently in Utah, 2 fucking illegal migrants who were here from fucking Central Africa. So, if that bullshit law would have gotten passed, if that bill would have gotten passed and codified, they wouldn't even be counted towards the 5,000 a day because, they're not from contiguous Mexico or Canada. So they're wouldn't even be in the count to close the border down. These 2 shitheads raped a 14-year-old girl while she was unconscious. They broke into her house in Utah and raped this poor girl. And they're out on probation. Literally, catch and release on 2 fucking pedophile rapist pieces of shit that are in this country illegally. And some liberal asshole judge was just like, okay, probation, don't do it again, fuckers. Seriously, we'll have to yell at you again. Like, what the fuck is wrong with these morons that they think that they're doing anything good? You're not doing your jobs. You're fucking betraying the trust of the people who put you into your fucking job in the first place. But like I said, that leads to, criminals that have no fear of being degenerate, worthless, rotten human beings because there's no consequences for them. And they don't have any moral compunction against doing this shit, obviously, because they're fucking doing it. They don't think that anything wrong. They think women are less than human. They think that children are perfectly acceptable things to jam your dick into if it makes you happy. That's why they're fine with child rape. It's a cultural thing, unfortunately. A lot of these dirtbags that are getting sent over here come from cultures with completely different standards than what we consider acceptable. And furthermore, to compound that, it has been brought to light by multiple sources that a lot of these third world shithole countries that are sending people over here as quote-unquote migrants with literal instructions how to get across the border and how to get free shit from the U.S. government when they get here and where they're supposed to be going to meet up with others of their ilk are literally being released from third world fucking prisons. So, as much as you might hate the fucking Cheeto, he was right when he said they're not sending their best. He wasn't wrong. It's been proven at this point. It's not a conspiracy theory. It's a conspiracy fucking fact. All right, anyway, that kind of went off the skids from... So, anyway, so the Super Bowl was last weekend, and the 49ers, who would, under normal circumstances, have been who I was rooting for, and I guess I was kind of rooting for, but they lost. It went down pretty much exactly as it was scripted, where... Mr. Taylor Swift got to have his team win and whatever. I didn't watch the game. I couldn't have cared fucking less. Even the halftime show was nothing I was really particularly interested in because just not a huge Usher fan. Whatever. Just never was my particularly favorite artist out there. And I grew up when the guy was plenty fucking prolific. But yeah, didn't watch the game, spent the day doing other shit, and was probably that much happier for it. But anyway, so post Super Bowl victory, the Kansas City Chiefs decided to have a parade to celebrate in a classic example of this is why people can't have nice things. After the parade was over, there was a shooting in the crowd. Of course, the leftist gun-grabbing assholes wasted no time to use that tragedy and stand on the bodies of people that were shot over some stupid shit because motherfuckers don't know how to act, to start screaming about gun control. Now, what they didn't bother to tell you, and there have also been a couple more, quote-unquote mass shootings, which technically they really kind of, whether or not they qualify as mass shootings is a little debatable. Particularly because one got stopped pretty quickly before, a 5-year-old child. There was a church shooting at Joel Osteen's church. Now, I hate Joel Osteen with the fire of 1,000 fucking suns. I think that big-toothed jackass really, he's fleecing the fuck out of people, and he's a fucking hypocrite. He makes me sick, and I hope there's a special place in whatever hell happens to exist for him when he's done. A lot of people say, oh no, he's a man of God, and blah, blah, blah. He has multi-million-dollar properties, mega churches, and when the people of Texas needed him because of weather issues and everything else, he kept the fucking doors on his churches locked. The motherfucker's got way more money than he needs, and he's done it by sitting there and shucking and jiving and slinging that fucking religion. And, if you believe something and you have faith and that's why you're doing it, that's fantastic. When you're reaching enough people where you're trying to influence social policy and you are netting literal millions of dollars and living in a lavish lifestyle, you're no longer doing it to spread the word. You're doing it to fleece the flock, and you can go fuck yourself. But, there was a shooting at Joel Osteen's church. The shooter was a trans-identifying individual who shot a 5-year-old child who was believed to have been brought by the individual who did the shooting. It was promptly gunned down by armed security in the church, which is an example of a good guy with a gun. Otherwise, the shooting would have been much, much fucking worse. And then, this individual was known to have violent tendencies and issues, had been arrested multiple times, multiple felonies, and obtained said firearm illegally. Again, gun grabbers start, if there were harsher laws in place, and da-da-da-da. No, this person was in illegal possession of a firearm, proving that not we need stricter gun laws, but that criminals are going to get the guns fucking regardless, and they don't care about your fucking laws. The magic laws don't make things stop. It's like the buildings that have the magic gun, no gun sticker on them that are supposed to disarm you when you walk in the door, but you know what? I've walked through doors that have that sticker on them. They don't fucking work. I'm just saying. So these shootings happen, and then the shooting at the Kansas City Chiefs celebratory parade was enacted by a fucking minor with a criminal past who had no business having the guns that were used in the shooting because they had them illegally. There's a pattern here, but it's not the pattern people want to keep pointing out. The guns aren't the fucking problem. The problem is the people that have them weren't supposed to have them anyway, and no laws are going to change that, so go fuck yourself. All you're doing is creating more victims by disarming the population and removing the good guys with the guns from the equation, which is what these assholes who keep trying to say, good guy with a gun, and try and say that it's not a valid answer to the problem, but conveniently omit the fact that the vast majority of these instances happen in places that you're not supposed to be carrying a firearm if you're a law-abiding citizen. Because you're creating these victim zones. They call them gun-free zones. I call them victim zones because that's what they fucking are. They create victims. And so we have to deal with this fact of, more and more increasing and more visible gun violence. And rather than looking at the fact like this last 6 or 7 mass shooters that weren't gang-related, which, by the way, the shooting at the Kansas City Chiefs thing is showing all the indications of being a gang violence or at least a personal conflict between two people that got escalated to the point where some teenager pulled out a gun and started shooting people. And, they'll omit that correlation when they're talking shit in the media, trying to disarm the law-abiding portion of the country who happens to own, more firearms than like every other military on the planet put together. We own, I think it's 60% of the world's firearms are in private hand possession in the United States. So I say those are amateur numbers. We got to get them up. Do your duty. Go buy some fucking guns, people. But that's neither here nor there. Again, like I said, I'm not going to force you to have a gun. I don't think you have to live your life according to my standards. I just think it's a good fucking idea, and that's my advice, is to go get a gun, learn how to use it, become proficient. Shit's going to go sideways. I'm really convinced. We've had, all these intel leaks of potential problems coming from verified sources. I mean, social media is still got a lot of the mainstream media assholes out there trying to remain relevant, desperately grasping at straws to try and pretend like the mainstream media isn't just a propaganda wing of the U.S. government at this point. Desperately trying to remain relevant and try and win people back. Like, come believe us, listen to us, tell us we're pretty. And it's ridiculous because, we've heard threats and we're going to be dropping the information soon, but according to our verified sources, there are credible threats against the United States. And, we can't tell you who the big bad guy is, but it might involve space. And then, the back and forth goes on, and all of a sudden they're saying, Russia's working on a program to put nukes in space, and that's a dangerous threat. That's why we have to keep arming the Ukrainians. Literally everything comes back to more money for foreign nations. Everything is coming back to that in the United States right now. The country that is $34 trillion in debt. We're talking generations of people born into debt they had fuck all to do with because our supposed representative government can't get it through their fucking skulls that they can't spend money they don't have. They can't keep printing money out of thin air to finance all their bullshit when nobody's buying our debt anymore. The rest of the world has their own fucking financial problems. The last thing they want to do is invest in U.S. debt, because there's no ROI on it at this point. They're deflating the value of the dollar by flooding the market with non-backed currency. They're doing all kinds of stupid shit that is further jeopardizing our position on the global scale. They are enacting policies that are putting a target on our fucking back with every other nation on the planet because we're not viewed as world leaders, contrary to what all these geriatric fucks in the Congress seem to think. And they're not still fighting the big bad Ruskies from the Cold War in the fucking 80s. But these morons don't get it because 67% of the fucking Congress is geriatric and of retirement age. It's pathetic. It's sad. It's just stupid, and we let it happen. So we're as much to blame for this as any fucking else, because we haven't started dragging these assholes out on the steps of Congress and tar and feathering them for fucking violation of oath, and we haven't taken a cue from the French and put a guillotine in the fucking town square to remind them who they answer to. No, we let them get away with this shit and whittle away with our freedoms one piece of paper at a time. You don't have to lose your freedom to a fucking army. You can lose it to a fucking bill just as easily, especially when you tell these morons that, we know you're not really representing our best interests, but you go ahead and keep doing you. You sit up there and you drink your Nestle Quick and you do your insider trading and you make laws that enrich your fucking donors and your friends. But we'll just keep sitting here footing the fucking bill because apparently the American people just think that's how it has to work. People have forgotten that they're supposed to represent us, and the government should fear us, not the other fucking way around. When people fear their government, there's tyranny. When the government fears its people, there's freedom. It's a real simple fucking concept. It doesn't take a lot of paper and a lot of legislation to make that the case. That's how it fucking works. It's real cut and dry. It's real bare bones, and it's real complicated. And the fact that people don't get it just tells you how stupid, how complicit, and how complacent we've become, where it's just, we'll go along to get along and go along to get along. And next thing you know, you can't feel the fucking collar around your neck because it's just ubiquitous. It's in the fucking air. You are in debt for the rest of your natural fucking life because of people who don't represent your interest doing what the fuck they please with the fruits of your fucking labor. They don't produce anything. They don't create anything. They don't bring anything to the equation, yet they're determining how the blood of your fucking labor and how the sweat of your brow is going to be fucking spent forever because we let them. But anyway, so these fucking parasites are out here, and again, everything's got to turn into, oh my God, we need more money for Ukraine. If we don't keep financing Ukraine, they're down to rationing bullets. Well, they should have been doing that from the get-go, because when you have finite resources, you have to control how you spend them. They should be using them wisely, not just throwing them willy-nilly into situations. They shouldn't have had a untrained army out there trying to fight. They shouldn't have gotten into a fight where they couldn't fucking win, where they were ridiculously outmatched. They should have, negotiated and found a peaceful solution at the first fucking opportunity. And based on a lot of the rumor mills, if you believe what Putin said in the Tucker Carlson interview, which I'm inclined to do, they had an opportunity over a fucking year ago, and the fucking West kiboshed it. I said it before, I'll say it again. Boris Johnson and the fucking White House said, no, don't do that. We got your back. Don't worry about it. And basically promised the corrupt Ukrainian government a blank checkbook as long as they kept fighting the Russians, because don't worry, we got your back. And now we've got these leftist war hawk assholes that are still bemoaning the failure of their border security bill that didn't actually secure the border. It was a Ukrainian funding bill with some border provisions to codify illegal immigration thrown in for shits and giggles so they could call it a border security bill. Now they're out here bemoaning that didn't pass. And then the bill that was passed by the bipartisan Senate for foreign aid for Ukraine and Israel, with literally no provisions for anything in the fucking United States attached to it, just more spending for those fucking assholes. And again, like I said, Israel has better credit than us. They can buy their own fucking weapons. They don't need our money. We are not indebted to them to the point where we have to say, you know what, here, let us borrow another $30 billion and give it to you. They have a better better production or GDP to debt ratio than we do. They should be taking out their own fucking loans and buying their own weapons with that money. I'm not saying I don't support Israel. I honestly think what Hamas did was one of the most heinous acts of my lifetime, and fuck them. I feel bad for the Palestinian people, like the civilians that are caught in the crossfire, but I feel bad for every civilian that's caught in the crossfire. You know, I feel really bad for the kids that were at some fucking rave in Israel that got raped and killed by the hundreds by a bunch of terrorist assholes who laughed about it and filmed it. So, yeah, my sympathy for the Palestinian people, I feel for them. They are definitely victims of Hamas as well. Howsoever, I kind of feel the way towards them and Hamas the way I feel towards us and our fucking government. Until they're actively fighting back against it, they're kind of complicit in their actions. And it's kind of why I blame all of us for the way our government is handling things. This is kind of how I blame them for the way their government's handling things too. Yeah, their government are actual terrorists who literally endorse slaughtering innocent people, whereas our government funds terrorists who slaughter people at their direction through black ops and other shit like that, because I have lost any and all faith in the U.S. federal government to be the moral high ground, any kind of bastion of rightness, and all the alphabet agencies are literally corrupt and more or less seem to be operating autonomously of the actual law and what they're supposed to be doing. They don't operate in the interest of the American people. They operate in the interest of their agencies. And it's saying this even 6 months ago would have felt completely crazy to me and completely conspiratorial. But the more facts come out, the more information is actually declassified and released, the more I fucking believe it. And it's been this way for decades. It's not a new problem. It's kind of being proven. The fucking assholes in the woods and the fucking camouflage and the tinfoil hats were fucking right. And it's kind of nauseating, really, but what can you do about it? But yeah, so the Senate puts forth another bill saying, oh, well, since we didn't get our border security bill passed, we have this other bipartisan bill. And the Senate passed it because a bunch of fucking warhawk rhinos can't actually toe the party line that they're supposed to be towing, which is, smaller government, less government spending. That's what a conservative is supposed to be. But instead, the modern neocons are realistically, they're just slightly different oriented fucktards that are big government, pro spending, and all this other shit. They're not going to stop their, leopard doesn't change its spots. But so these worthless fucks, they put the bill forward. Speaker McConnell says, you know what? It's dead in the water. Don't bother. We're not going to bring it to the floor. And literally every political asshole out here, oh, well, they're not bringing it for a vote because they know it'll pass. And we need to fund Ukraine. It's the right thing. We're abandoning the Ukrainian people. And well, no. See, you're not actually doing the Ukrainian people any favors, you miserable fucks, because all you're doing is drawing out a conflict with no actual game plan or end game in sight. There's literally not a single political figure in the United States who has been able to actuate and say with any sort of clarity what a win in this situation looks like. How are they going to achieve a win? What dollar amount, what goal, what thing is going to bring an end to this conflict and anything resembling a win for the Ukrainian people. They cannot enunciate it. They cannot pronounce it because they haven't thought that far ahead. This is meant to be another one of the endless fucking wars that just funnels money from the American people into the fucking military-industrial complex, where all these companies line their fucking pockets, again, on our blood, our sweat, our tears, and on the literal blood of fucking thousands and thousands of innocent people that are dying in this fucking conflict on both fucking sides. Because, frankly, most of these soldiers are there because they're being ordered to on the side of the Soviets. It's not some huge, doctrinal conflict of they want to just go out and slaughter these people for no apparent fucking reason. And then, the 300,000 dead Ukrainians at this point, a lot of them, yes, they're defending their homelands, but again, depending on the stance and how you're looking at things, part of it is, NATO was basically threatening to park nukes on Russia's back door. And the other part of it is they did have a certain degree of claim to the Crimean Peninsula because it's ethnic Russians who, according to them, wanted to come back into the fold. And according to other previously existing international legal doctrine, were supposed to be getting allowed back into the fold, and they were never released by Ukraine to reintegrate with Russia. Which, that's not something you hear a lot of coverage on here in the West because the media doesn't want to push that narrative. The media wants to say Putin, power-hungry asshole. And literally every one of these geriatric fucks in Congress who's saying, we got to keep funding Ukraine because once he takes Ukraine, then there's nothing to stop him from rolling into NATO-allied nations, and he's going to attack Poland, and he's going to do this, and he's going to do that. And now Moldavia, who, by the way, if you haven't looked it up, is not a NATO nation either, is saying, after he's done with Ukraine, he'll be coming after us next. Well, not necessarily. He hasn't expressed any interest in that. They don't really have any resources that Russia needs. Literally, half of the conflict here, I think, has to do with having the port and the access to the Black Sea and the Baltic Sea. And they don't need Moldavia for that. There's no need to take on the extra headache or the extra international scrutiny by attacking this little fucking nothing of a country. Fuck them. And I'm speculating here. I've played a lot of Risk over the years. That's literally my only credit towards any kind of knowledge of how to have any sort of international movement as far as troops and international relations and all this other shit. It's just the risk versus reward doesn't make a lot of sense for them. Like, next thing he's going to be doing, he's going to be rolling in here. It doesn't seem like Putin's about conquest. It really doesn't. And for him, attacking Poland makes literally zero fucking sense because that would enact a NATO act, which would bring to bear an actual global conflict, which he has come out right out and said that he doesn't want a world war because that would jeopardize the fate of all humanity, not just his country, but all the fucking world. Because let's be honest, if the dipshits get their way and some global conflict breaks out, there's a really good chance somebody's getting an itchy big red button finger or, Sleepy Joe will roll over on it one day because he thought he was getting up to get some pudding or whatever the fuck that brain-dead idiot does in the middle of the night. And next thing you know, we're all going to be fucking radioactive dust. So I really don't think that's the end game as far as Putin's concerned. He's not a good guy by any stretch of the imagination. He's a fucking shark, but he's a pragmatist. He's practical. He's not stupid. He's not short-sighted, and he's not letting his ego drive his fucking decisions. He's really not. I don't believe that at all. And every time I hear something to that effect, it just makes me shake my head and go, you really think, motherfucker? This is one of the reasons people don't believe you assholes anymore, because you're singing the same fucking song and dance from 40 fucking years ago. And it wasn't any truer then than it is. Actually, it was probably truer then than it is now. And yeah, so Putin is an old school KGB fucking guy who made it to the top of the ranks. The KGB didn't fail because they were bad at what they did. The KGB failed because they didn't have the proper support because communism doesn't fucking work. In terms of intelligence gathering and just being a bunch of ruthless, critically inclined, intelligent, dangerous motherfuckers, KGB was top notch based on everything I've ever fucking read about them. Definitely gave the CIA a run for their money, but they just didn't have the resources, the technology, or the money to do what the U.S. government could do at that time. Again, because, communism is fucking a failure, and a system and an ideology based around it is doomed to fail. And unfortunately, since we have a bunch of stupid motherfuckers in this country who don't read or understand history and lack any capability to see patterns. They're just, oh, well, that wasn't real communism. They never tried it the right way. Yeah, you stupid mouth-breathing fuck. That's what they said every time it's been implemented anywhere on the fucking globe, and it's never once fucking worked. I mean, but anyway, I digress. The whole commie fucking thing. But yeah, so one of the things that happened, so they bring this bill to the House, and the House adjourned for 2 weeks to go take a vacation. And immediately, the White House press accounts, this is irresponsible of them. They need to get back here and get to work. And Biden issues a fucking statement ordering Congress to come back and pass this bill. Well, somebody needs to, up his meta enough to get the message through that, look, you don't get to order them to do a fucking thing. That's not your job. That's not how it works. And some of us still remember how the system's supposed to work. Checks and balances. They control the purse strings. You control the military. The judicial branch tells them whether what they're saying or not is abhorrent to the Constitution and whether or not it's a valid law. The checks and balances concept where no one of the three branches is supposed to have too much power. Well, this is their power. They can tell you to go fuck yourself because they're not spending any more money. And there was a time where we, the people, actually could tell the government to go fuck themselves. We're not financing their wars prior to the creation of the Federal Reserve. Because prior to that, there was no central bank. There was no way that the government could just print money out of thin air to do whatever the fuck it wanted with and run the country into the debt and massive inflation. If they wanted to finance some shit, they had to do things like sell war bonds and get the American people's approval to give them money because they did not have access to 40% of our fucking paychecks just because they thought they deserved it. Because they're doing such a bang-up job, we should pay them whether they think they deserve it or not. No, that didn't fucking exist. We got to keep all of our paychecks, and we paid taxes on purchases. So there was like sales tax, and there was excise tax, and there was certain things were taxed a little bit more because they were considered excess. They were not necessary to life. There was a tobacco tax and an alcohol tax and, things you paid for because you wanted to consume things, but you had an option. It wasn't something you needed to survive, and so it wasn't something that was taxed because you figured your right to life was guaranteed by the Constitution because you were guaranteed the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Not a guarantee of happiness, you simple-minded fucks who seem to think I'm unhappy is a justification for everything you want being forced on other fucking people, but the pursuit of happiness, the opportunity to go out and chase your dreams and try and make yourself happy. Not that anyone is obligated to make you happy for you, but to make yourself happy, you simple-minded fucks. And so, yes, Congress adjourns and fucks off for 2 weeks, and Sleepy has a fucking tantrum about it and starts ranting and raving and throwing up social media posts of how irresponsible it is of them to leave without passing this financing bill, and it's critical. We're not going to abandon our allies, and we're not going to do this, and we're not going to turn our back on the world. And meanwhile, everything they're throwing at Orange Man, that motherfucker is he's every bit as Teflon as Gotti. The only difference is they actually had a stronger case against Gotti. Gotti was Teflon because witnesses kept fucking disappearing. Trump is pretty much Teflon at this point, or at least he may not be Teflon. He may just be fucking oily. But this guy, nothing's sticking because it's being brought to light more and more that everything they're saying is bullshit. Conspiracy assholes are right. The charges are fraudulent. The system's corrupt. The people they're using are more fucking corrupt. They have all these like DEI hires that they're trying to put in high up places in these cases are coming back to bite them in the ass because they're showing themselves to be every bit the unqualified, worthless, spoiled, privileged, entitled fucks that they are. Fani Willis basically embarrassed herself on the stand all day in the trial. They're having to see if there was a conflict of interest in her hiring the guy she was fucking to be the special lead prosecutor, and she basically admitted to multiple fiscal felonies, because she kept a bunch of cash from her campaign fund just to have it on hand. And she got on the stand, and instead of speaking like a college-educated woman who had passed the bar and worked her way up to a significant position in the legal system, she sounded like some fucking hood rat. And people are going to say, oh, well, I mean, I don't imagine a lot of my listeners will say this, but on the other hand, if this is how you feel, pull your head out of your ass and grow the fuck up. It's not racist for me to say she was talking like an ignorant sack of shit. She was talking like an ignorant sack of shit from the hundreds. She was not talking like a well-educated, well-spoken woman who earned her position through merit and hard fucking work. She was talking like some entitled fucking hood rat bitch who hit a come up, got a lick, and was trying to fucking ride that bitch for everything it was fucking worth. She caught a fucking hustle, managed to come up, and you can take a bitch out of the hood, but you can't take the hood out of the bitch. I'm sorry. This fucking broad said some of the most stupid, ignorant shit. I mean, she could have said the exact same message and used words that were actually, cultured. I mean, I'm not trying to say it like, well, it's because she's black that she sounds like a piece of shit. No, I'm saying she sounds like a piece of shit. It wouldn't matter what color she was. If she was, well, yeah, I kept some cash on hand, and if you tell me something's good, I'm gonna take care of you. You tell me you need a G, I'm gonna hit you with 1,000. Yeah, okay. It's not just a cultural thing to speak like some ignorant piece of shit from the hood, because I know more than enough white people that talk that way too. And it's got nothing to do with the complexion of their skin. And I don't think she speaks that way because of her complexion. I don't excuse being poorly spoken because of what color you look like, because I have plenty of friends of all ethnic backgrounds who are capable to carry on a conversation without sounding like they just got out of fucking county. It's not about what you look like. It's about how you fucking carry yourself. It's not a matter of, oh, well, this is part of my racial identity. It's no. Speak like you have an education and you are capable of rational thought. Not like you're some hood motherfucker who caught a lucky break and caught a lick. You're poorly representing yourself. You're poorly representing everybody who's on your side, and you're too fucking arrogant to realize it because you have been told your entire life that shit doesn't matter because you're a strong whatever and she's a strong black woman. Okay. The fact that she's a woman, irrelevant to how she's acting. She's acting like a fucking hood rat. The fact that she's black, irrelevant to how she's fucking behaving. Your behavior is not excused based on shit you have literally zero control over. The determining factor in your behavior is you choose how to fucking act. You don't choose what you look like. You don't choose what fucking plumbing you're born with. You don't choose any of that shit. You are not responsible for any of that shit. You are not better or worse than anyone else because of any of that shit. That stuff is exactly that. It's shit when it comes to your quality and content of your fucking character. When it comes to your bearing and your demeanor. Those are choices. Those are actively chosen behaviors. Excusing piss poor behaviors, it's not a flex. It's not a win. It's not getting us anywhere better in this country. The constant excuses of it's not your fault you choose to be a piece of shit. It's not your fault because of society, because of the culture you're surrounded by, because of the standards that were forced on you by blah, 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 blah. No, there's behaving in a way that is indicative of being intelligent and being well thought and being well spoken and being concise and carrying yourself a certain way. And there's being a complete fucking tool bag. Like, yes, I swear a whole fucking bunch in my casual random conversations and in scenarios where I'm just talking to my friends or I'm talking to you guys or I'm in a bar talking to some random asshole in a bar. I'm going to say all kinds of fucking things and I'm going to say some ignorant shit and I'm going to say a whole lot of obscenities because I'm talking to you guys. I'm talking to my friends. I'm talking to some random asshole after a few cocktails. Now, if I'm in a scenario that requires me to be a professional and well-spoken individual, I'm going to carry myself in a professional and well-spoken demeanor. If I'm in court testifying to something, you better believe I'm going to be the most well-spoken, smooth-talking, professional, respectful motherfucker on that stand. I may be motherfucking everybody in the building in the back of my head. I may be cussing out everybody that's making me waste my time and whatever stupid bullshit laws got me on those stands in the first place because I basically think 99% of them are infringement on my fucking rights. But the system is what it is, and as long as I'm playing within the confines of that system, I'm going to play by that system's fucking rules. But that's because I wasn't told for my entire adult life that I'm special and I don't have to follow the standards and rules set in place for everybody else because of things that I had nothing to do with that somehow magically endow me with some sort of privilege or some sort of right to not have to be, decent or well-spoken or well-demeanored. I can be an obnoxious fucking twat because society has told me I can. And I suppose in a way that makes it not her fault, because if I was handed that card, I wasn't raised to, be like, oh, I'm going to get over. So probably not. But again, the point is, it's disgusting. And honestly, the first half of her deposition went so poorly that they decided not to cross-examine her. They literally decided to move on to the next witness instead of having her say another fucking thing on record. So, yeah, that's another case against the Cheeto looks like it's just going to fucking implode, because when you got a bunch of corrupt motherfuckers who have no respect for the system because they think they're above it and beyond it, trying to manipulate the system to go against the people that they don't want around, they tend to have this massive fucking blind spot of how fucking horrible they actually are. And control is not solidified quite enough yet to allow them to get away with it. The system still kind of limps along as it is. Now, I don't know how much longer that's going to last, because I'm pretty convinced at this point that Cheeto is going to fucking win the next election. Contrary to what every talking head and social media influencer out there that is even remotely affiliated with the left, plus every mainstream media asshole in the game. They want to say that he's gonna. Oh no, this is gonna be the one. It's a slam dunk. Nancy Pelosi came out and said this, and she dunked on Trump for X, Y, and Z. And first off, nobody that's a serious human being gives a fuck what that decrepit old cunt thinks. Second off, realistically, it's like I said, it's looking pretty much like the Cheeto's gonna fucking mop up if they actually try and run Sleepy Joe another run. I am kind of the mindset, I think what they're more likely to do is wait until after Super Tuesday, when they literally cannot run another candidate to be primaried. And then they're going to have him bow out, whether it's due to a claim of a health reason or claim of, they're going to finally throw him to the wolves for all the myriad amounts of illicit shit he's done over the course of his life. Or they're going to sacrifice him and burn Hunter. Maybe that would be fucking wonderful. Burn that whole fucking family. I'd be fine with that. They want to throw him up as a sacrifice and say, well, here, since we don't have time to have a proper primary, here's who's the Democratic National Convention's going to put forward. And it wouldn't be the first time they've used this tactic, the fucking September nomination bullshit. And then they're going to run whoever it is they've got in the fucking wings to be the next candidate that they think has a chance of beating Trump. Now, I really don't think the left has anybody strong enough to unify all the fucking people Biden has completely alienated at this point. He has completely lost a huge segment of, like, the black and Latino vote that the Democrats have always counted on having, are fed up with this shit too, because they're tired of policies that they can see are literally taking them out of that, like, when you go from being the preferred favorite flavor to, like, not the primary concern anymore. And I'm not saying that they actively were actually preferred, but they were told they were. A lot of the policies never matched up with the fucking rhetoric that came up during every fucking election. That, the Democrats are the party of the minorities. But you know what? They really never have been. Ever. Historically, if you take the time to sit and look at it. I mean, yes, they were a little more liberal in a lot of ways for a long time, but they moved that fucking bar so far left that people like myself, who were, if you went back to the sane days, were considered left of center, are now considered right-wing extremists, which is utterly fucking ridiculous to me. But it is what it is. I mean, yeah, just because I don't want to play your stupid games, I must be the bad guy and I must be destroyed. But ultimately, I don't think they have a candidate loaded that is going to be unifying enough to overcome the massive shit show they've built in the last 3 years. I mean, people's quality of life is in the toilet. There's all kinds of issues that the American population have said over and over again they're concerned about that are not being addressed or being actively ignored. You have poor and disenfranchised motherfuckers who were always a stronghold of Democratic votes because poor, disenfranchised urban motherfuckers traditionally didn't make the best decisions. And they said, oh, I'm voting for Democrats because my daddy voted for a Democrat and blah, 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 blah. And they're even waking up because now the new favorite golden child is the fucking illegal migrants that are here. We've got Democrat politicians literally saying on the news that their primary concern is undocumented Americans. There's no such thing as an undocumented American. If you're an American, you're an American. If you're undocumented, you're an illegal fucking alien. That's what it is. There's no undocumented Americans. It's horseshit. They're saying the quiet part out loud. You broke motherfuckers aren't the priority anymore because we can't keep buffaloing you because you actually are starting to expect results from us. So instead, we're going to replace you with all these fucking illegal motherfuckers and we're going to fast track them to citizenship so they can replace your votes that we're losing through our own fucking ineptitude. And they're going to overwhelm you. They're going to breed you out in a fucking generation and they're going to appreciate us because we let them in and we gave them citizenship and we gave them free shit. And I really don't think the left has anybody they can run that's going to overcome that. I mean, what are they going to do? Newsom? That guy is loathed pretty much in every country that's not fucking California. And he turned California from like the third largest fucking economy on the planet into running like a $60 billion deficit. I mean, he is not a good leader, and he will not get elected if they run him. If the election is anything resembling on the up and up, he will not win. Now, maybe Big Mike Obama, yeah, she might get the nod. And like I said, I'm not particularly. I don't know if Barack and Michelle are a trans couple, or if it's all just rumor mills and hate. I don't fucking care. As a person, I can't stand the bitch, and I really would not be happy to see that ticket. And I don't think there's enough people that are going to be like, oh my God, first black female president, we have to vote for her. I don't think that fucking card works anymore. I think the American people are fed up, and it's growing. There are more and more people who are fed up with identity politics that bought into it the first time. They're even the second time. People are finally starting to realize that when that's the shit you base your decisions on, you don't get anything worth having because it's bullshit. It's irrelevant. It's celebrating nothings. Big fat nothing, non-priority, things that don't matter to someone's capabilities. They don't speak to your skill or your handset or how good you are or what you do. And people are finally starting to realize how bad their lives get when that's how they make decisions. Not all of them, but some of them. And it spreads because once you start getting common sense and people starting to see the fucking truth, they start telling other people that they were close to of a similar mindset previously to that. Because it's in their nature, like, I figured this out and I want you to figure this out too. Now, some people are more hard-headed than others and it doesn't take, but, what can you do? And, I'm kind of running out of steam here, so I'm going to put a pin in it for this week. And there was a lot more going on, but that's all I got for now. Thanks for listening to another episode, guys. If you liked what you heard, leave a comment, leave a review, leave a rating. Go to ihadtosayitpodcast.com, sign up for the mailing list, interact with the show. Click the links, sign up for the Patreon, join the Discord. Come and interact, be a part of the show. Buy the merch, support your favorite creator. Or support me. Anyway, thanks for listening, guys. Till next time.